Civil War Generals, Perspectives on the War's Commencement and Conclusion. Let us engage in this discussion. The American Civil War commenced in 1861, following years of escalating tensions between the northern and southern states regarding issues such as slavery, states' rights, and westward expansion. It is worthwhile to examine the perspectives of the generals concerning both the onset and conclusion of the conflict. Ulysses S. Grant, prior to the war. The underlying cause of the Great War of the Rebellion against the United States can be traced back to slavery. In the years leading up to the war, it was a common assertion among certain politicians that a state divided between slavery and freedom could not endure. Secession was both illogical and impractical. It represented a form of revolution, which is an inherent right. When a government oppresses its people, they possess a natural right to seek relief from that oppression, whether through withdrawal or by overthrowing the existing government in favor of one that is more acceptable. The Southern Rebellion was significantly influenced by the aftermath of the Mexican War. Just as individuals face consequences for their actions, nations also suffer repercussions for their misdeeds. Our nation faced its punishment in the form of a devastating and costly war. The notion that any state could secede from the Union for any reason is fundamentally at odds with the idea of a lasting Union, which must be preserved, and the Constitution upheld without exception. Ulysses S. Grant, following the war. The conflict has concluded. The rebels are once again our fellow citizens, and the most appropriate expression of our triumph will be to refrain from any public displays of celebration in the field. I found it difficult to celebrate the defeat of an adversary who had fought tirelessly and courageously, enduring significant hardships for a cause that, in my view, ranks among the least justifiable for which a people could struggle. The recent civil conflict has resulted in the emancipation of the enslaved and granted them citizenship. However, they still lack the civil rights that should accompany such status. This situation is unjust and must be rectified. I am dedicated to this rectification, to the extent that my executive influence allows. Let us pursue peace, putting aside past grievances. Robert E. Lee, prior to the war, expressed that he could foresee no greater disaster for the nation than the disintegration of the Union. Such a dissolution would represent a culmination of all the issues we lament, and I am prepared to sacrifice everything except my honor to preserve it. Despite my deep commitment to the Union and my sense of loyalty and duty as an American citizen, I have struggled to reconcile the idea of turning against my relatives, my children, and my home. Consequently, I have resigned my commission in the Army, hoping that my limited services will never be required, except in defense of my home state. I sincerely wish to avoid the necessity of drawing my sword. If Virginia remains loyal to the Union, I will do the same. However, if she chooses to secede, I will follow her with my sword and, if necessary, with my life. War is a cruel phenomenon, tearing apart families and friends and tarnishing the purest joys and happiness that God has bestowed upon us in this life. Robert E. Lee, after the war. We must extend forgiveness to our adversaries. I can honestly state that not a single day has gone by since the onset of the war without my prayers for them. I believe it is prudent to avoid reopening the wounds of conflict and to emulate those nations that sought to erase the scars of civil discord, allowing the associated emotions to fade into oblivion. Contrary to the notion that the war was fought to sustain slavery, I am genuinely pleased that it has been abolished. I am convinced that this change will significantly benefit the South. The pace of divine providence is often slow, while our aspirations tend to be impatient. The scope of progress is vast, yet our capacity to contribute to it is limited. The duration of human existence is extensive, while that of an individual is fleeting, leading us to often perceive only the retreat of the advancing tide, which can be disheartening. History serves as a source of hope. I hold that it is everyone's responsibility to come together for the restoration of our nation and the reestablishment of peace and unity. I have been residing here quietly, hoping to be allowed to lead a private life. I have witnessed enough of the horrors of war and am entirely willing to remain peacefully at home from now on. William T. Sherman, Before the War. You people in the South are unaware of the consequences of your actions. This nation will be soaked in blood, and only God knows how it will conclude. It is sheer folly, madness, and a crime against civilization. You speak so casually about war, but you do not grasp its true nature. War is an atrocious reality. William T. Sherman, After the War. Many young men here today view war as a glorious endeavor. However, let me tell you, it is nothing but hell. I admit, without any shame, that I am weary and fed up with fighting. Its splendor is merely an illusion. Even the most remarkable success is built upon the remains of the fallen, accompanied by the sorrow and cries of distant families, pleading for their sons, husbands, and fathers. It is only those who have never experienced the sound of gunfire or the cries and moans of the injured and suffering who demand more bloodshed, more retribution, and greater devastation. Stonewall Jackson, Before the War. The time for conflict has not yet arrived, but it is imminent. When it does arrive, my counsel is to unsheathe the sword and discard the scabbard. I have the utmost respect for the brave men under my command. However, I am compelled to shed tears of blood over the plight of our beleaguered nation. Jeb Stuart, Before the War. In this new reality, we face the choice of either submitting unconditionally to the oppression of the federal government or standing firm for our rights and freedoms. Abraham Lincoln, Before the War. Both sides condemned war, yet one would choose conflict rather than allow the nation to endure, while the other would embrace war rather than see it perish. And thus the war began. The critical question of civil war lies in your hands, my discontented fellow citizens, not in mine. We are not adversaries, but allies. We must not become adversaries. Although our passions may have been tested, they must not sever our bonds of kinship. The profound connections of memory, linking every battlefield and the graves of patriots to every living heart and home across this vast land, will once again resonate with the harmony of the Union when they are stirred, as they surely will be, by the nobler aspects of our nature. Abraham Lincoln, Following the War. With goodwill towards all, compassion for everyone, and steadfastness in what is right as guided by divine insight, let us continue our efforts to complete the task at hand, to heal the nation's wounds, to support those who have fought in battle, and to care for their widows and orphans. We must strive to establish and uphold a just and enduring peace among ourselves and with all nations. With divine assistance, I will not falter. I will not falter. We must either nobly preserve or shamefully lose the last greatest hope of humanity. Let us persist in our efforts to complete the work we have begun, to heal the nation's wounds, to support those who have fought in battle, and to care for their widows and orphans, all in pursuit of a just and lasting peace among ourselves and with all nations. I have always believed in the freedom of all individuals, but if there must be slaves, they should first be those who wish it for themselves, and secondly, those who wish it for others. Jefferson Davis, Prior to the War. I labored tirelessly for 12 years to avert conflict, yet I was unsuccessful. The North was irrational and blind, refusing to allow us self-governance, which ultimately led to war. The opportunity for compromise has now passed, and the South is resolute in maintaining its stance, ensuring that those who oppose it will experience the consequences of Southern might. The principles we uphold are destined to re-emerge, even if they are temporarily suppressed by the sword of conquest. The South is on the verge of reaching unprecedented heights, forsaking all earthly concerns except for the pursuit of its independence and the realization of its rights. Jefferson Davis, Following the War. The struggle is not concluded. The conflict is far from over. It has merely embarked on a new and expanded stage. The past is behind us. Let it rest in peace along with its dreams and ambitions. Before you lies the future. I urge you to set aside all animosity and divisive sentiments and to join the ranks of those who will work towards a longed-for outcome, a united nation. Nathan Bedford Forrest. Before the war, I cherished the old government in 1861. I still hold the old Constitution in high regard. I believe it represents the finest form of government, provided it is administered as it was prior to the conflict. I do not harbor hatred. My opposition is directed solely at the radical revolutionaries who seek to dismantle it. I perceive that this faction, as I know it to be in Tennessee, consists of the most unscrupulous individuals, men who would not shy away from any crime, driven solely by the desire to enrich themselves. Nathan Bedford Forrest, after the war. I entered the military with a fortune of $1.5 million and returned in poverty. Ladies and gentlemen, I accept these flowers as a symbol of reconciliation between the white and colored communities of the southern states. I particularly appreciate this gesture coming from a woman of color, for I believe no one on this earth holds a greater admiration for women than I do. I arrived here amidst the scorn of some white individuals who believe I am acting wrongly. I am confident that I can influence and contribute significantly to fostering brotherly relations, and I will do everything in my power to uplift every individual without diminishing anyone. I aspire to help you secure positions in law firms, businesses, on farms, and in any area where you are capable of succeeding. I have refrained from discussing politics today. I do not intend to address political matters. You have the right to choose your representatives and vote for the candidates you believe are best. I believe that once this is accomplished, both you and I will be free individuals. Act according to your own judgment and integrity when selecting individuals for office. Although you have invited me to deliver a lengthy address, I did not come here for that purpose. I am not particularly skilled in public speaking, and my commitments have limited my ability to prepare. I am here to greet you as friends and to extend a welcome on behalf of the white community. I encourage you to draw closer to us. Whenever I can assist you, I will gladly do so. We share a single flag and a united country. Let us stand together. While we may have different skin colors, our sentiments remain aligned. We are born from the same land, share the same air, and inhabit the same territory. Thus, why should we not consider ourselves brothers and sisters? Many falsehoods have been spread about me, which both white and black individuals present here who supported me during the war can refute. Engage in hard work, live with integrity, and act with sincerity, and when you face oppression, I will be there to support you. I appreciate this opportunity to be with you, ladies and gentlemen, and I want to assure you that I stand with you in both spirit and action. If you consider this narratives good, please like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more interesting histories.